just going to run a report to test basic connectivity to the MCP server. I'm doing this test in a Copilot agent window, and the reason I'm doing that is because we get some debug information around the middle which will explain some of the interactions that it's performing. So what we can see here is that Copilot has enough instructions to be able to convert my basic request, which is in written language, to a rudimentary JSON document. And then when we pass that payload to the MCP server is able to convert that into syntax correct JSON for the AIS server. We've also got some logging capabilities built into this system. So you can see here that we get to see all the various traverses from Copilot to MCP server to AIS server and back again, so we know exactly what's going on, and this auditability helps us with our continuous improvement. So now that could be a long-running asynchronous job, so what we'll do is we will query some additional components. So please tell me the status of that job, because it could still be running. And so what we do now is, and what's nice about this is it has the context of the previous run. So you can see that it's calling the AIS operation, report status, and it's passing in the job number, which is, I didn't have to tell it that, it's able to determine that. And then we get the payload back from JDE Edwards, which is the JSON document from the AIS get report status. And then we can see that that's turned into text for us to say, yeah, it's done. Finished at this particular time, ran on play server 2 in Q-batch, etc. So that's really good news. Why don't we start some basic data queries? How many records are in the address book table? So you can see here that we're saying address book table and we're using the term records. And so what that is able to do then is it knows that I'm trying to do a count of JDE Edwards data, and that's a AIS data service v2. I put in, it's able to extract the basic JSON components for that, which passes to the MCP server. And then the MCP server is able to form a syntactically correct AIS request and make that request to JDE Edwards. And so what we have here is we have it telling us there's 1,300 address books in the table, and that's really handy. What if I and you can see that it's converted address book table to FO101, so it's got all the built-in data dictionary and all the built-in table descriptions available. Can you provide a summary of address book records by address book type and produce a horizontal bar chart of the results? So now we're going to test it out. We've enabled code execution in this particular, because it's using GPT-5 and it can create code. So this will be writing JSON. So you can see that it's done the aggregate query over the top of the FO101. It's summarized the address book table by counts, or by address book type, which is exactly what I asked it to do. And so now it's able to write some code to produce the graph in the format that I requested. Again, all conversational, and I'm using natural language, but critically writing programs here. And so then we get the summary graph here in the chat interface rendered for the data that I requested. And so we're able to ask any questions of any data tables in the suite. So how many sales records were added in the last 30 days? And so this should be able to convert that into 4211 and count based upon, and we can see here it's using TRDJ because I said entered, but I could also say how many sales order records have been changed in the last 30 days. And so I'm using change dates, so there's many dates on that table, but what we can see here is it's smart enough to use UPMJ greater than equal to. It does all the conversions, all the Julian date conversions, passes that through to the AIS server and creates the correct responses. So what you can see here is we've got a pretty comprehensive way of querying complex queries in JD Edwards using our JDE MCP server. What business functions have address start with address? So we also catalog all the business functions in the system, and then we're actually able to call any of these business functions too. Right, so can you tell me the parameters needed for BSFN? Oops, damn, that's probably not going to work.